Welcome back. Today we're going to make the thing that goes in the ear in the top, which we drilled earlier, the lamp. Let's get on with it. I'm running out of flat surfaces as always. Can't use the laser cutter now, but I'm going to leave them resting there safely while I make the lamp, and then once the lamp's attached I can start wiring up all the bits, which again is the project that keeps on giving. Mechanisms, electronics, computing, design, style and aesthetics and all that. Fabulous! If you've watched the last video you'll know that we're going to use one of these things, which is, again, as I said before, took me ages to find out where to get these or what they even were. I knew someone had to make a mass-produced dome shape, and sure enough they're balloon for weddings and things and parties. They're balloon weights where you tie a helium-filled balloon to them, fill them with confetti and then rest them on a table or something, and then throw them away afterwards and never to be seen again. Or you can cut out a thin laser disc which pushes onto the edge to give it a slight rim, sand that off, drill holes and turn it into an amazing steampunk lamp, which I will now do. The first job is to rest it on there. Oops. Actually, let's take the disc off because we don't need that on. I'm going to sand off that bit first actually, and then sit it on there and drill the hole. The reason being that these are quite fragile and they crack easily, but if you've got them supported on something such as this lump of wood filler, it doesn't crack and it helps you to line it all up. Actually, before I do anything else, it keeps me company having a telly on, watching or listening to films. I'm going to do a bit of reorganising because I'm fed up. You know, this hideous LG smart TV that comes with everything, all singing and dancing, and then sends all your information, if you agree to it, off to South Korea and all sorts of other countries that don't actually conform to any data protection rules. Anyway, it's another story. Comes with absolute rubbish sound, absolutely appalling. The speakers that are built in are so small, it's ridiculous. So you then have to spend, theoretically, another 60 quid at least on an LG soundbar that optically is connected. Obviously in the old days you'd just have two phono outputs so that you could connect it to an external amplifier, but no, to try and force you into buying a soundbar, it's only got optical out, which is ridiculous. So then what you have to have is another power supply and then an optical into phono out adapter thing, which is ridiculous. More electricity and cost. And then you need to have an amplifier of some sort, and this is one I had in the loft for years. Really clever digital amplifier and this, that and the other. So you've got all that as well. And it means that every time I switch it on, because it's all logic, I have to press the same buttons, turn down and tweak the same bass treble controls to try and keep the volume reasonable. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, bring back the old days. TVs with speakers that works. Anyway, I'm fed up, to cut a long story short, with reaching up there and doing that every time I switch the power on. So I'm going to move that from there down to there, because I touch that a lot more than I touch the glue. So we can do a swaps in and I don't have to keep reaching up all over the place. Oh, mustn't grumble. Voila! Glue up there and amplify here. And I've even gone and got a DVD player, because being a fan of films I have quite a lot of DVDs, so I can watch them now that, I won't just go on about it again, but now that Netflix and Amazon Prime are just doing own brand films that are absolutely rubbish, appalling, just namby-pamby, willy-nilly, soulless films to try and appeal to the majority of viewers, I'm running out of decent films to watch because they're increasing the so-called free ones that you get by paying for Prime. So much rubbish, the useless films, the ones that are made independently. And then suddenly, of course, the Amazon originals. Oh, makes me sick. Anyway, mustn't grumble yet again. Let's get on with something more enjoyable. Let's drill holes in plastic domes. It's actually quite difficult to get rid of the little tabs. Start off with the sanding machine just to get rid of most of it. Then use a bit of coarser, I think this is 180 or something, abrasive paper. to smooth off any slight imperfections. Now we're moving on to the 200 grade wet and dry, just to get rid of those scratches, because even though you can't really feel very much, it'll show up on the paint. There we are, perfectly smooth, blended in nicely. Right, hole drilling time. Here's my 15mm drill. I'm going to sit that on there. I can see where the edge lines up. This is all clamped. This is a wonderful thing about pillar drills and jigs. Right, watch this space. Nerve-wracking. Not too bad. I think it's sort of partially melted its way through. I'll wait for the plastic to cool and then just whiz through it again. And this is what happens if you do it too quickly. Well, ruined. Make another one. There we are. Sanded nicely. I used wet and dry for the final one because it's such fine abrasive paper, it gets clogged up if you don't use it with water. Just keeps it clear. And I've just been going through, I suddenly remembered something, going through this box of leftovers from the rest of the machine. I know what most of them are, but one of the bits I do not have a clue what that's for. Looks like it should be something very important and special, unless I have no idea. Anyway, obviously not necessary. And I found these two and remembered that to reinforce this for the 15mm pipe, like so, I stick that on the inside, and that just makes it much stronger where the pipe goes in. Lovely. Look what I've just found. Brilliant. I was wondering how long to cut the copper pipe. Here it is, a whole instruction sheet on making a lamp. Brilliant. Just in case you weren't aware and fancy using copper pipe, it is really lovely to cut, because you get one of these. The idea being, you put a mark on it and you want it to cut, you just tighten it with the cutting wheel there. Oh, where are we there? And then spin it around a couple of times, tighten it a bit, and that's it. And you get a beautiful rounded end. And then you get a lovely deburring tool with a new cutter, because the other one was getting a bit worn. There, it's just brilliant. Because these sort of pipe cutters, they have this V shape usually on them, which if you're doing it for plumbing purposes, you put that in and twist it around just to get rid of any burrs. But for steampunk devices, you just run one of these deburrers round a couple of times. It cleans it up beautifully. Turns what used to be a nasty job having to file it and clean it all up, because it's going to have wires running through it, so you don't want any sharp edges. This deburring tool turns that into an absolute joy, and I'm all for that. Now, to glue it on, I've just rested that in there. And the wonderful thing, or another wonderful thing about super glue, is that it's so thin that capillary action carries it in. So I'll put a blob there, or 4 blobs, there we are, and twist it round a bit just to make sure that the glue gets everywhere. I've pushed it into the this fitting just so I can make sure that it stays flat. Then what I can do is to, actually I'll put some more glue on it. Oh, it's just so nice. Can't have too much. Alright, that's all nicely round there, and I can put this other bit over the top, push that down, and there you have it. Bob is your proverbial uncle, Fanny is your proverbial aunt. I'll let that set, and then, like I say, it's so much easier to put some masking tape around and spray it all up. Lovely. Now, I've got the bit glued on, those little bits that I'd forgotten to do with a little spot of super glue. That's now set, it's after lunch. I've masked the fittings, they're now nice and solid, so I can go ahead and paint them. While they're drying, I'm also soldering this bit together. So there's a piece of Variboard that fits, where's it? Oh, I've stuck it together. Here's the other one. the piece of variable cut to the right size, so it just pushes into a piece of 15mm pipe, which I then glue in. That won't touch any of these, it's too well spaced apart. And then I've got the 3 wires on here, plus 5 volts, 0 volts, and the signal from the Arduino that runs the little transistor. And then, thanks to my lovely drawings, it even shows me what angle to bend it at, so it sort of shines forward out of the lampshade. So that's great. Get them spread up. And we've come to the really exciting bit, the brains of the operation, the Arduino Uno. This one is, this sized one. They are absolutely brilliant. Without these, I wouldn't be able to make any of these machines work. Basically, it's like a little mini computer that you can plug into a normal computer, a laptop or something. You can program it with brilliant software that you can download free, upload the software to this, and then every time you power it up, it will do whatever you told it to. And it's got a nice lot of in and outs that it can all be switched between input or output. Some of them are analog input, some of them are pulse width modulation output. It is absolutely fantastic, and it runs on 5 volts. So, in fact, it can run up to about 9 volts, I think, because if you plug it into that, because it's also got a little voltage regulator on it. But we are going to fix them into the barometric prognosticators, like so. Don't know why it's upside down, but that's that bit. And then we've got all these lovely pieces of exciting wire, plus some other bits and pieces to connect to it. I know I've mentioned these lots of times before, but this is the type of interface board that comes with the stepper motors, these little stepper motors like that. They come with 5 wires with a plug on the end that plugs into the interface board. Now, the interface boards are very useful. For a start, they have 4 LEDs so that you can actually see and check if things aren't working properly, whether the outputs are actually being supplied with power and switching on and off when you want them to. Also, they have the 7 interfaces in these chips, not 8 for some reason, 7. They just don't connect up the other 3, as you can see there. I don't know whether you can see any of this actually there. You can see there's in 1, 2, 3, 4 that have pins soldered in, and then there's 5, 6 and 7 that don't have anything. I want to use 2 of them, 5 and 6, to control the 2 motors. Each of the switching circuits in here can handle, I think it's ½ an amp, so that's an awful lot of current. And the little motors for the dinger and the cuckoo the flute don't draw anything like that. So that's great, and I've put flying leads on them all, ready to add them to my collection of parts with flying leads on them. Excellent. As my mother used to say, never waste a flickering LED. We've got 4 flickering LEDs there, or will have. So I found a couple of these left over from the last batch I made. It's a sort of funny metallic holographic shiny paper, and this is designed because we've got the air vent there to go up like that, and that little bit just sticks down into that socket and reflects the LEDs off that and onto this, so that when the motor turns round, when it's playing the flute and things, you can see flickering red through the air vent. It's a nice little touch. I've got all the colour spaghetti hanging out everywhere. All these different bits now all need to be connected up to the amazing Arduino. There. I've also, other bits I've added subsequently, as always, a bit of variboard stuck down to make a junction for all the plus 5 volts and 0 volts, which is always very handy. And where are we? Here we are. An amazing little barometric sensor, pressure sensor. Absolutely amazing. It's actually in the box just there. Let's zoom in a bit. It's in that minute little package there. Absolutely incredible. And that uses, along with the LED, the weather forecast lamps, that uses a I2C to communicate, so they can jump onto there and then back to the Arduino. So also this, which is the 433 megahertz radio receiver. 433 megahertz being, I think, a very common frequency for things like weather detectors and doorbells and all sorts of other things. So this receives all the signals from the wireless weather detector that you sit outside, and then the Arduino decodes it via some very clever library work by a very kind of person, very clever person, and then can read the results. Right, let's get on and turn this messy pile of spaghetti into a lovely neat arrangement. Oh, there's also the lamps, which I've just glued. You can see there's the LED, 3-watt LED, soldered onto a piece of variable that's then glued into the piece of copper. This is all sprayed up beautifully. Look at that overkill, just to ensure that these wires can't rub or get damaged inside the copper pipe. What ridiculousness. Heat shrink sleeve, plastic spiral, more heat shrink sleeve. Oh, Bennett. Ridiculous. And here are the plan stand, or the plans stands. There's just too many wires to get onto one sheet, so that's a load of bits and pieces. When I designed this, I only had green and blue and black and red. Consequently, I've now got more colours, but I haven't used them. It should be enough just to help me to get by. And here we have it, all nicely wired up. There's the wireless receiver and aerial, barometric sensor. It's all wired up, and it all comes into this middle bit, the Arduino. You can see there's the usefulness. You can see how useful it is. A bit of variable glued on, just so all the positives can go together and all the grounds can go together, and they just go down through a fuse to where the USB cable will come into it. 5 volts at something or other amps. USB, very useful. Right, I'll get on and do the other one. I'm not going to plug it in or connect it yet. That's too daunting for today. I think I'm just happy today following the plans and wiring it all together. Oh yeah, I also got the lamp put on. That just pushes firmly into that hole in the block that I drilled, and then there's the wires that get consumed within the colourful spaghetti. Prevarication is the name of the game, and I want to play the game with you. I could now theoretically plug that into the laptop, upload the software and test all this, but that's just too nerve-wracking of a Sunday morning. So what I thought I'd do is to do some more making stuff, because we've got these. But no, this is a glimmer from the future. I'm not going to do any more making stuff because I've just noticed this video is 20 minutes long. So I'll post the second half of it up in a couple of days. I also got completely confused yesterday and re-edited a video that I'd already edited. It was 15 seconds longer, and people pointed out it was the same video. In fact, it was completely re-edited. 15 seconds difference isn't too bad. What a waste of time. And thank you to those people who pointed it out. Oh look, here they are. Oh lovely. So, as I say, this is a glimmer from the future. Thanks very much for watching. Hope it's been enjoyable and has inspired people to start making their own steampunk machines. Hope to see you next time.